All right, it's time to look into what's trending in employment law. Lawyer, you're on the clock.
So today, Phil, we're going to be kind of quick because we want to leave plenty of time for our talk with Chris. So we're going to talk first about a couple of data points related to the economy because that of course impacts what you and I do every day with respect to the labor and employment realm and HR and all things employment related. The first one I want to talk about, the first data point, is that everybody, unless you've been living under a rock, you know that about 10 days ago, the United States revised the United States Bureau of Labor Statistics. So this is the governmental entity. So the USBLS revised its employment job gains between April 2023 and March 2024. They revised those down by 818,000 fewer jobs than they had originally reported. So that basically means that since over the course of that year, they had been reporting job gains, and those job gains were not quite as high as they had been reporting. This is the largest downgrade since 2009. In its 2024 preliminary benchmark revision, which was released on August 21, and it found that job growth was nearly 30% less than the 2.9 million job gains it had originally reported. And then instead of adding about a robust 240,000 jobs a month on average, the country gained 175,000 jobs a month during that time of historically high rates in inflation. And so the reason I bring this data point up is because people are citing this quite a bit, that this may lead to interest rate cuts. And then I think a second data point that was released just in the last day or two, you combine that with the reduction in jobs, the downward revision of 818,000 jobs over that time period. U.S. job openings also declined to their lowest level since January of 2021. Job vacancies fell. That means open jobs fell to 7.67 million in July. That was below all estimates. And layoffs rose to 1.76 million. That's the highest level since March of 2023. And Phil, I've been saying on the program really for a couple years now that really since post-COVID, that right after COVID, we saw the job market really increase. It was a job seekers market. It really whipsawed very quickly into us doing reductions in force. And I think that we're seeing this bear out in some of the numbers. So the U.S. job openings, like I said, have fallen. The available positions, like I said, are decreased to 7.67 million. And that was from a downwardly revised 7.9 million reading in the prior month, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And, you and I aren't economists, but what the economists are saying is that with layoffs and unemployment increasing, amid a decline in job openings, the balance of labor supply and demand is really shifting to show a more pronounced weakness in the labor market. And what they're expecting is that should allow underlying wage and inflation pressures to wane, and also perhaps lead to lower interest rates. And so while I hate to see people losing jobs or not able to find jobs, there could be some relief to the inflationary pressures and the wage pressures that all employers have been experiencing really since post-COVID.
Yeah, that's some interesting trends. I don't want to assume there's any political incentive behind any of those numbers being released in any which way. But what I can say, and whenever we talk about job openings, I often reflect upon our background verification business because, of course, we do that on a national scale. And it, for me, is the best leading indicator of what's happening. And that is, when that business is hot, people are hiring and they're running background checks. I kind of can anticipate what the job opening data might suggest that we're seeing. And we're seeing something very similar. We're seeing a slowdown in the background verification business, suggesting that employers are hiring less people than they were last year at this time. So it is a slight slowdown that we're seeing, but I still am hearing employers struggling to find the skill that they need. And it's really about skill matching versus openings and unemployment, right? Because it doesn't matter if you're unemployed if you don't have the skill that's being demanded by employers. So it's really about keeping our skill up to date and being available for work, which I think is going to be a great lead in when we talk with Chris about, using AI versus AI replacing you. So Chris, I'm just going to plant that seed for you right now as we can. What else do you have there, Burt?
Yeah, and Phil, I was just going to say also another data point that the Fed watches, the so-called quit rates. Yes. Which measures people who voluntarily leave their jobs. That also edged up to 2.1%. And that would suggest that people are less confident in their ability to find a new position than they were a couple of years ago. You remember, again, immediately post-COVID, it was definitely in a job seekers market. And people were leaving long-time positions and seeking other jobs and gaining other jobs. That statistic is also down. So that's the last data point. So let me shift gears real quickly. I want to close the loop on a case we've talked about repeatedly on the show, and that is the case of Muldrow versus the city of St. Louis. You might remember that Miss Muldrow, Jatanya Claiborne Muldrow, she was a former St. Louis city police officer. She brought a bias suit claiming she was illegally transferred due to her gender. And according to a court filing just yesterday here in the United States District Court for the Eastern District of Missouri, in that court filing, her and her legal counsel and the opposing counsel indicated that they have finally solved this case that was first filed December 27, 2018. You might remember, Phil, that this deal would end this tumultuous legal battle that led the Supreme Court just this past April to overturn an Eighth Circuit ruling that had affirmed the dismissal of Ms. Muldrow's case on the basis that she did not suffer a material adverse employment action when she was demoted. And the Supreme Court, like I said, reversed that case. It said that that an employee just needs to suffer an adverse employment action. It does not necessarily need to be a material adverse employment action. So something like a demotion, even if it didn't involve a pay cut, can be an adverse employment action. Ms. Muldrow won that at the U.S. Supreme Court. The case was remanded back down to the trial court, the U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of Missouri. And lo and behold, the parties have settled. We don't know what the terms of the settlement are. Could be anything from reinstatement of employment to perhaps a new job with the city of St. Louis, or perhaps a monetary payment. We're left to speculate on what terms the case was settled, but the case is in fact over. But while it was pending, Ms. Muldrow made some significant case law in the United States.
Yeah, no, that's significant. I appreciate the follow through. It's diligent, Burt. You're diligent.
Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. All right.
Thank you once again for tuning in to This Week at Work. If you enjoy the show, please share it with your colleagues. Forward our invites. Share the link, aimea.org/thisweekatwork, or follow or subscribe wherever you get your news and entertainment, like LinkedIn, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We're everywhere you are. And you can be part of the show. Send your questions and comments anytime to info@thisweek.work. We'll see you next week, 7:30 a.m. Central Time, when we discuss what's happening this week at work.